Okay. Well, thanks for joining me. Gaslight Today is the name of the show. And, Alexa, stop. Here we go. We're going to be, this is Seamus, the cat. He's, refuses not to be involved with these things. This whole thing about, that the Republican Party is doing, and it's really, let me start off by saying that when I say the Republican Party, I'm talking about the people in Congress and the White House. It seems like a lot of people who consider themselves members of the Republican Party are buying into this whole thing. But I don't like to put people into, I hate to say, well, Republicans are horrible people. But the Republicans in Congress right now and the White House are turning out to be kind of horrible people. And not only are they horrible people and doing things that are really cruel when they're not doing things that are really greedy, they're losing their humanity. It's like they're lying about it. They're doing these things, and then they're lying about doing these things. And the initial reaction from this administration, including Congress, is to say something that's a lie or really untrue, and then the next day or the next couple of days say the truth. And that's kind of a dog whistle to their audience, the nationalist audience, the core supporters, because they know that when they hear the first thing, that's what really the speaker is speaking, the president or Mitch McConnell or Ryan or any of these people. They hear the first thing, and they know there's going to be one in a couple of days that that's going to be for the marks. The marks. Now, what's a mark? In wrestling, a mark is the person that believes that the wrestling's real, and so you're a mark because you're paying a lot of money for this stuff. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but a mark is a mark. A mark is the person. If you are in a grifting situation and you don't know you're in a grifting situation, you're a mark, I guess is a good way of putting it. Now, the photos that are rolling across are just some photos from that were finally released today. Finally, some photos have been released of the things that they don't want to call cages. And so you'll see this scrolling, these photos scrolling of just, kind of what these cages that the Republicans say don't exist, and they're not keeping them in. There's just a few slides there. What I want to do also is show this this video really quickly, because it kind of shows in a nutshell what the government's doing to us. Trash day, right? So it shows what the government's doing to us, which is this. Let's see here. Can we get this baby going? Okay, here we go. Right when I got this thing all wired and under control, along comes another thing to get in the way. Okay. I'm gonna have to come back to that video. So let me close her off. That thing was working fine a few moments ago. We'll just get back to these guys here. The photos. So this is what's going on, is the Republicans are putting refugee children in cages in old Walmarts while they build internment camps on military bases. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna. So that's really something. And it's not American. And we're putting these kids in these cages. And we're lying about putting these kids in these cages. CBS kids cages, because there was a story on CBS this morning that was here we go. And how do I get this on the thing? I can at least get the audio going, right? Here we go.
Comfortable in their words with his characterization of the words cages. They said it's not inaccurate, but they're very uncomfortable with using the word cages.
Nice, huh? Okay, so I hope that the audio was caught there. I'm my own engineer, and doing the engineering and talking and changing is really challenging sometimes. But it's you know, so they're putting these kids in cages. Now, what they're doing is what the real goal is to get the Democrats in Congress to sign on to a really horrible immigration legislation. And so when you hear them, the only kernel of truth at all, when you hear someone say that Democrats are obstructing, the Democratic Party is obstructing, you know, they can change everything. Well, how they can change everything is by signing really awful bill into account. Now, if they had input and could, you know, this bill wasn't, you know, cruel like this, again, it just blows my mind. We're caging kids. Oh, by the way, the new numbers as of this morning, 11,000 kids, 10,746 or something kids. There are 11,000 children that we've separated from the parents in the last month. Now, in the next month, it'll be up to 20,000, right? We've taken 20,000 human beings away from their away from their parents, away from their whatever they, you know, was going on in their minds, and they're putting them into cages. Now, here's a couple of little anecdotes about the cages. You know, Health and Human Services says we don't want to call them cages. They're cages, but we don't want to call them cages. That doesn't sound good. They literally did a press release this morning to CBS to say that. So at the same time, they're saying the Democrats need to do this. Well, the only way Democrats can get involved, the only avenue at this point that the Republicans who run both sides of Congress, the White House, all the people in the FBI and DOJ are appointed by Trump. You know, this is Republican city, and to have them blame this on Democrats when they could push through a Supreme Court judge without a single Democrat, they just push it through by themselves. And Supreme Court is like the world standard of Western judicial, trustworthiness, blindfolded justice and all that. So that's they can push through that without a single Democrat, without asking, without even, with just nothing, not even letting Democrats talk about it or anything. But they're saying that it's Democrats' fault that they're putting people in cages. Now, if you look back about a month and a half ago, when this thing started, like I said, they've taken 11,000 kids so far in the last month. So that goes back to the beginning when Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III stood there on the beach in California somewhere and with a beautiful ocean behind him and said that there's a new policy he's implementing and they're going to go 100% everybody's a criminal. Now, you got these illegals, the people bordering, crossing in weird places, just getting over. But the real problem here is that they got people seeking asylum, refugee status, people who had to leave because their village was, overrun by somebody. There's several people, even us, in different countries that are bombing the hell out of things that people have to run away from. And they're just, Jeff Sessions and Trump approves it, and the GOP Congress, all the Republicans approve it too, because none of them are saying anything about this whole thing. Think about it, kids, human beings in cages, simply to, now, okay, so I'm going to say they're hostages, right? The government and Trump are using these as hostages. They're taking these refugees, putting them in cages, and using them hostages to get Democrats to sign this horrible legislation. They're betting on the public, if they say it often enough, because this has been working for them and it's really sick. If they say it often enough, people start believing it. But it's not real, it's not true. So you gotta not listen to one news source or not listen to one place where you're getting your information. But if there's 75 news organizations saying one thing and Fox News is saying the opposite or something different, you gotta put some weight there. By the way, who was it? Tucker Carlson on Friday was telling his viewers that they shouldn't watch any other things, that everyone else is lying and they need to only watch Fox, and that's the only people that are telling the truth. Folks, that's propaganda. That's the stuff that the Nazis did. That's the stuff that strongmen are doing right now in other parts of the world. So there's something to think about. The whole image of taking kids away from their parents, and they've lost at least 1,649, I think, of these children. They don't know where they are because they were doing this in such a rush and shoving these kids all over the place that they didn't even make a system whereby they can follow up and figure out if these kids were sold into sex trafficking or not. That's extreme. That's an extreme statement. But they don't know where these kids are. There's 11,000 kids. There's at least 1,700 of them that are lost. They're gone. Why not? There are people. There are couples who get to see and talk to their 8-month-old daughter by Skype once a week, and no one will tell them where their daughter is or how to get her back. But that's the thing. Okay. Now here's another thing. They're telling, when they detain these kids, there's another policy that Jeff Sessions and Trump think is really great, and apparently all the Republican Congress people. Sometimes I get so wound up with this stuff that I just jump rails, and something else that I want to talk about jumps into my mind. So you're going to have to deal with that until I can figure out how to get a two-way conversation going here and get some input from people. So we're doing this thing where we're lowering ourselves even more in the eyes of the world. This morning, the head of the United Nations Security Council, the head of the United Nations Council on Human Rights came out and said that in the strongest way, the UN Council of Human Rights is condemning America putting refugees in cages, especially just to leverage legislation, which is where I was going when I lost my thought track, right? The legislation. So the fact that these people can make up these horrible legislations without even talking to anyone else. They say the Democrats are to blame. Democrats aren't even asked to be involved in the process, and or Democrats won't sign something that says that you can put kids in cages. No one in the frickin' world would sign something that says that, except for, Putin and, Erdogan. That's another one of Trump's buddies, and Kim Jong-un. I mean, what the hell? The Republican Party has become the party of communism. And I don't say that lightly. I say that as an old guy who's been watching communism for 50 years and what it was, and when the Soviet Union broke, and what communism is. And that's when a whole bunch of shitty countries get together and do horrible things to the people who live there. And they start by dehumanizing one section of people, right? Trump has said that the Mexicans coming over are rapists and murderers. That was within 2 minutes of starting his presidential campaign. That's what he said. The Mexicans they're sending us are the rapists and the murderers. There's probably some good ones somewhere too, but they're not sending those to us. Sending to us? What? So this is just a by design program to dehumanize a group of people. Now they start mixing in MS-13. Now MS-13 is a real thing, and it really sucks. It's really bad. But they're in Los Angeles gang. I mean, they're all over now. And they've gone down south. But it's a gang that started as a Los Angeles prison gang. So mixing up Hispanic Americans, calling them animals because of this gang, it's the first step toward dehumanizing a whole population. Everybody's done it. And we got to start, we're all trying to be so polite and not, not upset people around us that you can't win. People don't hear our message when someone else is screaming and lying and shouting about a fake message. and then calling anything that doesn't agree with them fake messages. This isn't how it works. So these legislators, they're just awful, and the more I think about it, just more things pop into my head too. Okay, so this legislation they want us to sign, they're holding the gun against the head. Now, sorry. The other thing they really want is a wall. They want $30 million for a wall before they'll stop collecting these human beings, putting them in cages. 5-year-olds all in one cage, sitting quietly because there's nothing to do. If they play together, they get censured and torn apart. None of these kids are allowed to touch each other. There aren't like adults going in there that just hug them and say everything's going to be okay, because no one's allowed to touch them. And they're not allowed to play together. 5-year-olds, if you see half a dozen 5-year-olds, what are they doing? They're joking around, doing, well, you know what 5-year-olds do. If you don't, then then you're probably one of these people that supports this whole fiasco, a black eye on American civil liberties. These people are seeking asylum. Now, these aren't people that are, that are like sneaking in the middle of nowhere where, where they have electronic things and people watching, but, Trump wants a giant wall for some reason, $30 million for it. Oh, by the way, the $30 million wall, it started out at $18 billion. Then during the budget signing thing, when Trump said he was going to let DACA go ahead and move forward again in exchange for the wall. And Chuck Schumer met with her, and Pelosi went and met with him and said, we'll give you now the $18 billion had gone up to $20 billion at that point. We'll give you your $20 billion for the wall. Just leave these people alone. And that's Tuesday Trump, who said, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Now Thursday Trump called these same people, and he told them, go put together a plan, bring it to me, and I'll sign it. He did this on TV in front of the whole world, said, I'll sign it. That was on Tuesday. On Thursday, the Graham and, a Democrat and a Republican, Graham and, I get so wound up with this stuff, right? Anyways, Schumer. So they go in, and so on Thursday they make an appointment for lunch to go talk with Trump and have him sign off on it. When they walk into the room, there's John Kelly's in there. There's Tom Cotton. There's just what there is, Steve Miller. What there are is a bunch of old white supremacist guys who are running the government, and they're all in the room. And Trump's saying, "I'm not going to sign anything." So they're like, what? Wait. We said we'd give you the wall, $20 billion that you want if you'll sign this. And when they show up, he shuts them. No, he actually, I'm sorry. Here's what really happened. Trump says, good, signs off on it. A couple hours later, when they're back at the Hill, the Congress guys get a call from John Kelly saying, Trump's deal is no good. We're not going to do it. So he made a deal on DACA for his $20 billion wall. So now they want $30 billion for the wall. They want $30 billion and treat every other immigrant like they're, I don't know, like we're Nazis treating people that aren't Nazis, right? There's where I get back to the thing where I was talking about the politeness. We're all, other than the, horrible Republican Congress people and administration people, and they're a lot, the press, the weird state-run media, Fox Press, that I think is going to ultimately go the way of the French press who were collaborators with the Nazis, and they're all hanged at The Hague for collaborating and for brainwashing and stuff. They were journalists were taken to The Hague during the Nuremberg trials and were hanged because they enabled and colluded with the government to try to whitewash this kind of stuff. So when you hear people in other countries, the UN commissioner guy, health rights commissioner guys saying that this is really horrible and it's unprecedented, they know what they're talking about. These are, they know what they're talking about. So there is something about that the state-run media is that, I'd be surprised if by the end of this, those guys aren't, a lot of them in jail and or hanged. Sean Hannity is going to be really bad because he's right in the middle of this whole. I don't want to get into all the conspiracy stuff. I just wanted to, and I know a lot of what sounds like conspiracy stuff, but things that are actually really happening all at the same time. And the reason why they're making this big cage deal, why they're pretending like they're making noise is because Paul Manafort was thrown in jail on Friday because he was out on bail for doing money laundering and a bunch of other stuff, 29 or so indictments, and while he was out, he was making phone calls to his co-conspirator guys, telling him, straightening the story and tampering with witnesses. He gets in the front of the judge Friday and goes, "Oh, it's no big deal." The judge says, "What are you talking about? You're not a teenager. I can't take away your phone. You're an idiot. You're going to jail." Give your wife, literally, give your wife your wallet, your watch, and your tie, and head on back to jail. Right there, bam. Okay, they don't like that. Trump doesn't like that. Why? Because Manafort is the guy that was the owed $17 million to the Ukrainian president, who, as soon as on inauguration day, called the guy and said, "Hey, how can we make this straight? How can we cancel my $17 million debt?" Right? Now, the thing about Manafort is that he was skeezy and Russian-y from way back, so he was already under surveillance from the FBI because of what kind of guy he is and what he does and who he talks to and how he launders hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions, for the Russians. Now the FBI isn't idiots. They know who the money launderers are and stuff. They know what's going on. Now they just need to kind of get them together and get someone from the government to pay attention to something other than this distraction stuff. He's again, the Republicans versus humanity. This is a humanity thing. What's wrong when the guy from Breitbart is saying, "I went to the facility," he's showing photos of like a bedroom, like a regular bedroom in someone's house, and saying this is what the facility looked like. Well, this morning, look at those photos right there that are going on the thing, right? That's what the facilities look like. They're keeping kids in cages at Walmarts, waiting to build internment camps on military bases for 20,000 kids, 11,000 of whom are already in custody. And Republicans think this is okay. Mimi Walters, you think this is good? California's CA 45, you think this is good for your custom, for your what are we? Well, we're ghosted is what we are, because the day after the election, you ghosted us, didn't come to our town hall, voted against us, voted for people to be able to carry guns everywhere, voted to allow more drilling off the coast of California, voted to take away the state and local tax deductions from people in this community in District 45. That's about $18,000 a year. You took it all away. Now the Senate gave about half of it back, gave about $10,000 back. But what is this? She voted to take away health care. She voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. And she says she's pro-woman, she's pro-family. We asked, where was she on the Women's March Day? Her staff doesn't know. Oh, we don't know. What was she doing? Where was she marching? Well, I don't know. Her staff never know anything. When you call the office, you get nothing. Okay, I'm guessing it's the same for most of the Republican House members. I already know the Republican senators are just really, really horrible people who are really old and only care about money and winning elections. And you need a lot of money to win elections. And they're keeping kids in cages. I guess that's enough for now. Thank you for stopping by.